Welcome to On the Line. I'm your host as always, Roque, my brother, my partner in crime, the Rykno. Rykno, I know it's been a while. We took a little bit of a hiatus. A lot of good things have happened, of course, since the last
show of the new year.
First show of the new year. Happy New Year 2013. Yes. And kind of a little late to be saying Happy New Year. It's the 29th of January. Hey, it is what it is, right? Of course, we're coming at you from Gangplank Studios here in Chandler, Arizona, our new home away from home. Yep. And right now, a lot of things going on. Rykno, it's Super Bowl week. We got recruiting. Signing day is on my birthday, February 6th.
A lot of good stuff.
Mine was actually February 5th, 1992, which is kind of cool. So it's kind of falling in those dates. And of course, I know you want to talk about ASU basketball. You know, we got some heroes, Carrick Felix, Jahi Carson, who you were really high on last year. We're going to talk about them.
They're looking good.
In the meat of the Pac-12 schedule. And looking for a push for March Madness. And of course, we're going to be having to get into some heroes and zeros. So there's a lot of people that are making headlines for the right and the wrong reasons.
Absolutely.
But of course, let's talk about it, Rykno. Super Bowl. Those are some pretty good championship games.
The Har Bowl.
The Har Bowl. And of course, the Ravens, of course, going to New England, which I thought was just incredible. And
the way they played.
Probably one of the hardest hitting football games I've ever seen. Not a lot of flags flying, Rykno, but Ravens just going into Foxborough and just knocking the holy living Jesus out of the
thing. We're talking about the championship game. I mean, let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is, though. I mean, their offense has finally caught up to their defense, I think, as far as the level of play.
And they fired their coordinator at the beginning of December.
Yes.
Cam Cameron, adios. They bring in Jim Caldwell, who was Peyton Manning's coach.
That's right.
He was the Colts head coach, who got shown the door after last year's season.
Right.
To bring in, I can't think of, Coach Chuck Pagano, of course, who overcame cancer, which was awesome. And of course, Colts won, 12, 13 games, something like that? 13-3 or 12-4?
I think they were 10-6. I don't think they were quite that good.
Were they 10-6? Well, the biggest turnaround ever.
Absolutely. Big time.
Went to the playoffs. Of course, they were bid adieu by the Ravens. And the Ravens, their march through the playoffs, Rykno, you'd be hard-pressed to vote against them in this game. And
absolutely.
Like you mentioned, we talked about this before the show. They got so much to play for. Ray Lewis, his last game as a Raven, he's already said he's done. Art Mandel, of course, passed away earlier this year. And John Harbaugh, who's the older brother to Jim Harbaugh. I mean, there's just so many subplots and plots in this game, man. I don't know how you could really vote against the Ravens in this game, but let's talk a little bit about this.
They're definitely my pick for this game. I mean, I feel like, I talked about, their offense. I mean, it's really become a big strength under John Harbaugh. And a lot of people, about 4 years ago when he was hired, were like raising a lot of eyebrows because he was the special teams coach for the Philadelphia Eagles at the time. But he's really come on and he's like kind of tweaked the defense, but he hasn't really kind of overhauled it like a lot of coaches like to do when they come into it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he really let the players play, let Ray Lewis and Ed Reed get the veterans kind of do their thing, and it's really paid off. And they've continued to play at a high level, but he's really taken the offense under his wing, and with players like Joe Flacco and Ray Rice has really started to turn it into an elite unit when for years they struggled to really play at the same level as the defense, excuse me.
Yeah, Joe Flacco, has won a playoff game in every single one of his NFL seasons.
Exactly.
Not a lot of quarterbacks can brag about that. Every single year since his rookie year, he's won a playoff game.
Yeah, and he's really improved.
On the road.
Yeah, he's really become a complete quarterback this year. He's really improved his accuracy and the weapons that they've really put around him this year. I think Jacoby Jones is probably the most underrated acquisition from this year, coming over from Houston and really being that other deep threat on the outside and creating some mismatch problems for Anquan Bolden and opening up Torrey Smith down the field as well. He has, to me, really become the X factor on that offense. And then you throw in his abilities as a kick returner, and to me, he's just become such a great weapon for them. And then you throw in, I talked about Torrey Smith, him being able to stretch the field. He's such a great deep threat. And then Anquan Bolden was a monster in that game against New England.
Former Cardinal.
He's so money in the red zone.
I think Fitz misses him. I think Fitz misses him.
Maybe a little bit. But then you throw in, those underneath guys like Bolden, like those two tight ends they got, Ned Dixon and Dennis Pitta. And then you got, obviously, we can't talk about the Ravens without Ray Rice. I mean, he's such a great threat from both out of the backfield and in the passing game. I mean, he's such a big weapon, a shifty, really big, really nice safety outlet for Flacco. I mean, just you can't say enough good things. And then you talk about that big offensive line.
And that's what I want to talk about because to me, the unsung hero of that group right now is Matt Burke.
Yes,
he's really solidified that line. Former Minnesota Viking. He's played a ton of time in the NFL, a lot of years. Maybe his last game as a Raven, right? We don't know that. But this is a guy who's really just been the catalyst of that O-line. They moved some players around. Michael Orr, Mr. Blindside, started at the left tackle position. I don't think he's a left tackle. He's not very good at that side.
But he's a very good right tackle.
He's a very good right tackle. And Brian McKinney has really just impressed me. Mount McKinney. Shown the door with Minnesota. They got two former Vikings on that O-line. But shown the door at Minnesota last year because by Leslie Frazier saying he was too fat, showed up out of shape. This guy committed this year. Didn't start at the beginning of the year for the Ravens, but has just come on during the postseason, really just has solidified that left tackle spot. So you got some guys that have played a lot of games, but not played a lot of games together, and they just turned it on in the playoffs. So I'm just very impressed with this offensive line. I think they are going to make the difference. When you think of a Ray Rice, time for Flacco, throwing to these weapons, it could be a long day for that 49ers defense, which has its own players right now. They got some good players
absolutely.
too.
I mean, we move into the Niners defense now. I mean,
49ers.
They're really an elite.
And we're not talking about Jerry Rice and Joe Montana.
No,
we're talking about a new invented 49ers.
This is a defensive team, I think, in my opinion. And Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman are probably the two best middle linebackers in the game. They have a great pass rush on the edge. Justin Smith's a little bit banged up right now, but Alden Smith on the other side has been just a beast. And then they got the strong run defense up the middle with Ray McDonald and Isaac Sopoaga. And then the biggest problem with the Niners the past couple of years, and one of the things that's kind of held them back, in my opinion, has always been their secondary. But they really got really found some diamonds in the rough, guys who had kind of been let go by the other teams, who have really come on and played well. Carlos Rogers is one. He was on a 1-year deal last year with the Niners. Played pretty well. Was serviceable. Came in this year and has really taken his game to another level and been that shutdown guy that Washington thought he would be when they drafted him in the first round all those years ago. And then just some of those other players. Dante Whitner coming over from the big free agent acquisition from the Buffalo Bills, and the Niners worked just very well as a unit. I mean, the whole defensive unit works so well together. They managed to contain some of the league's elite offenses. Especially in the playoffs with the Packers and Falcons. Two of the best offenses in the NFC, and the Niners have essentially shut them down.
Absolutely. So when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the 49ers because they got some very special players on offense, the other side of the ball. So please stay with us. Comment, of course. Let us know what you think of this matchup. We'd love to hear from you right below in our Facebook page on the line. Rykno, it's great to be back. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the 49ers offense.